Okay, and yeah, we talked about that in the workshop.
Right.
Different approaches to practicing, and so let me ask this though. Like, I think that there are certain people that are successful musically, right? What we say those people are successful. Maybe they've done performances, or maybe they're your favorite artist or composer or something like that. Whatever you would deem as somebody who's successful.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have maybe different ideas. Maybe it's your friend, maybe it's your family member, or something like that. You just love how they play,
Mm-hmm.
and so I think the thing is about a successful person musically, like their mindset, how they got to that point is really the difference between maybe somebody who's struggling more in the process. So, Shireen and
Right.
I guess we would consider ourselves, we believe that we're successful musicians because this is what we do for a living. So we're professionals at what we do, and so I think that we have a certain level of success in that. So we feel like we're at least credible for sharing our thoughts on that.
Right.
And I think our mindset musically. I know my mindset musically is one thing. Maybe Shireen's is a little bit different. But let me ask Shireen here. So like, you know, what was it about your mindset musically that helped you maybe like for one go through the whole music school experience to make it through that, to go do performances, because Shireen plays, she performs at her church.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the mindset things for you that kind of like got you in that space and then through that space?
Mm-hmm. So that's a very good question. So I feel like when I have a deadline, then I actually work better. So, for example, I feel like when I was at school, having the deadline of when the recitals are going to be for myself, and or if I were playing for my colleagues, then I have a date set, and I tell myself that before a certain date, I have to finish learning all this music so I can perform in the week or two. So I always give myself set the date a little bit earlier than the actual deadline so that I have a little bit of room where if I was not able to complete it, then I have, a little bit of a buffer space there. So,
But I
setting
think
a
that
deadline is actually,
I think that's the big thing is the
yeah,
deadline, right? And
right. That's the
having
thing.
kind of an event or an endeavor, and there's multiple kinds of deadlines that you can
Right.
set.
Yeah.
And I think this is really the main thing that we want to talk to you guys today about. I think what separates, people that make a lot of progress musically
And
and
those
and
people,
have a
yeah.
vision, and then people
Mm-hmm.
who tend to struggle from what we've seen is like, what do I practice? Well, I think it's like
Right.
the thing is, what are you practicing for, and or more importantly, like what are you preparing for?
Right.
And so I think that's what Shireen's talking about with a deadline. And I think, we were talking about this beforehand, like how this works in our experience. And I think, when we prepare musically, that's the big thing. Like musically, we
Mm-hmm.
want to prepare for something.
Right.
And to me, there's really like two situations in which you would prepare for something as a musician. So for me, I think one of them is you're preparing to actually play for someone or other people.
Mm-hmm.
So this could be on all kinds of levels. It could be
Right.
playing for one person,
Right.
could be for a family member and say, hey,
Right.
I just want to show them what I've been working on
Mm-hmm.
and have them appreciate what I do and feel good
Yes.
about that.
Mm-hmm.
Even coming in, if you're coming in for a lesson,
Right.
to
Then
play
you're
for
playing for your
your
teacher.
teacher,
Right.
so preparing to do that. And really when you're playing for your teacher, that gives your teacher the opportunity to evaluate what you're doing and give
Mm-hmm.
you insights on how to improve. Particularly, like we're not here to criticize or judge. We're just here to evaluate, to kind of help say, oh well, maybe you could try doing this, or we can see what the problem is, whereas you might not be able to tell. So in either case, you're playing for someone. One person
Mm-hmm.
could be a smaller group of people, up to like if you have an audience. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if you have an audience 20, 30, 40, 50 people, 100 people, 200
Right.
people,
Right.
or more. The
Mm-hmm.
idea is you're preparing to play for someone or people.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first thing. Or secondly, you're preparing to play with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's like being part of a team. So, coming in to be prepared to play the music with other people, is the idea being prepared for that, and or a combination. You're preparing to play for other people with other people. That's really my main area. Is like, when you play in a band, that's generally what you do. You're preparing to play with people for people.
Yeah.
So I think those two things of, what you prepare for. So.
Right. So so this is why we offer classes here. It gives students more opportunities to play for other people. And so when they know that they're going to be performing in a class, although it's quite intimate, but it's still a performance, they do try their best to show the best of their performance to their classmates.
For sure. And so we understand a lot of our students, particularly the younger ones, like they need an event. They need something.
Yes.
They need that deadline. They need something to prepare for. Now, the degree of that deadline, this is not a concert recital necessarily, but we gradually build on those things. And then what that does is it gives your practice purpose. It gives it meaning. So it's like, okay, I have this event that I'm going to prepare for. And so then you become focused on what you're preparing for because it's dependent on that event.
Right.
So I think the big thing is, like, when people ask, I'm not sure what to practice or what to do, I think it's really dependent on what you're preparing for, what the event is. So yeah, this is why we have classes. I think, for the younger students in the piano class, like after every class, they perform for one another. And so that's what they're preparing for. And once they do that, they know what to work on. And after they play, they feel good about playing well.
Yeah.
And getting claps from their classmates. And,
Right.
And for my classes, we're playing songs, so we're preparing to play the songs together. And a lot of your practice can be spent on preparing for that. So without those things in place, I think that's where people get kind of like lost or things become aimless.
Right.
With the time you spend practicing.
Right.
So then the next thing is, go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say that, so that's why having a goal, just set a deadline for yourself, it really helps with your practice routine. And I wouldn't say that you should set a goal once a year, but you should set a goal maybe every other month or something, so that the deadline is closer and you'll be just more prone to want to practice more because you want to do well.
Yeah, I mean, because like you could say, all right, well, there's a recital 6 months from today. All right, well, so a lot of people aren't really going to buckle down till maybe a month before.
Yeah, that's really dangerous, actually.
Sure.
So like for example, like in my studio, I always I have students, they participate in competitions and they do performances, and I always tell them that they have to be ready at least a month before. So although I said that, but usually they are about ready about 2 to 3 weeks before the competition and or before the concert, which is still in the safe zone. So this is why I always give my students and myself some buffer room in case that you don't have those pieces polished and it's not really ready to go as at the performing level.
Yeah, for sure. So like, I think the point we want to make is, like, if you're struggling a little bit with like what to practice and what to do, I would say the first thing is think about something you're preparing for. So for us, if it's our classes and the songs that we're working on, that's the idea behind that, is that you have something to prepare for, to take out the mystery of what to do with the practicing. So that's usually the first step. Identify what you're preparing or practicing for.